The data mine Aegis webinar update. Today is the 2nd of June, and my name is Lee Poulin. I'm from the data mine Brisbane office in Australia. Alright, so with what we're going to cover today, first of all, so this is based on, we've received an Aegis update, version 3.18.43.130, which is currently available. You can download it from our support site. And this is just to cover a couple features that have been requested by users. So, just a quick overview of what's going to happen. We do have the new features. We can comment by scenario. We can report apparent rotation. There are additional plan view reporting options. We have enhanced wireframe import and management. And we can copy rings, copy the holes in rings, which is something that we couldn't do before. And we also have isosurfacing of single rings. So first of all, there's the ability to add comments. So we can do that by scenario, and it enables easier scenario management. Just skip over to Aegis. So for an example, in this data set we have, usually before the comments were visible, mostly you just see your scenario names, which can get pretty unwieldy. So you see lots of these scenarios do have comments. And the way that the comments work is you can right-click on the scenario and type into the comments. So as soon as I type in anything, you'll see down here that the comments are now available, or are showing. So yeah, there's my comments, and then I can double-click that, and as soon as you delete it, the comments once again disappear. But this way you can put in a lot more of the extra details as far as maybe what you were trying to do, different spacing, different explosives, different timing, whatever you were testing in that scenario. Alright, next is apparent rotation. So rotation in Aegis has always been measured in the ring plane, which makes good sense. But we have received from some clients that they need to report the rotation in the vertical plane rather than the ring plane, which is fine as long as there's no dumping. But here I have a scenario where we do have some dumping. Let me pick one of these rings. So I've got a ring that's dumped at a good angle. And now to see what the apparent, all right, in the window here, let me change the view. So the whole rotation is still reported in the true ring plane here. But what we can do is in the report that's created for the drillers, we can come in here, and so we can come into one of our tables and look. So here, hold on a second. If you open up the collection, so you can come and pick apparent rotation as one of your values. So it isn't here to the bottom of the list because it's new, but so you pick apparent rotation. You can use this pull down to make sure that it loops over or does, I guess, two rows for the title. And then you can play with the rounding and place that wherever you want in the list. So here we've got, yeah, it's reporting apparent rotation. Now this ring, because it's dumped by 15 degrees, there is a good change in the rotation. If I go to some of the other dumps, or the rings where the dump is 0, apparent rotation and rotation are the same thing. So, all right. So that covers apparent rotation, and that's how you set it up. Then in the plan view reporting, we have the ability to show the adjacent rings in the plan view. So, especially when you're, I guess, reporting your ring set or your scenario. So here in Aegis, we've got a scenario here that has multiple ring sets. So in our view, currently we can see the adjacent rings in this window. But to see that in the report, we'll come here. And so you select the window where you've got this, you might want to. And then if you go onto the side, there's the new settings for adjacent rings. So first of all, we can show the adjacent rings. Then we can turn on the reference lines. So we can turn on the reference lines both for the adjacent rings and also for the main ring. And we also have the ability to choose where we have the ring numbering. So we can do it left, right, or we can center it. So this gives you a lot better information. And if you need to, we can pan that. I'm just using the arrow keys to move that around. And maybe play with the zoom a little so that we can orient ourselves. So that is the new settings that we have for reporting or viewing the adjacent rings in the plan view. Alright, so back to what we've got. So there is some new features as far as the wireframe import, where so by default we can still import the DXF and datamine formats. But what the software will do is it allows wireframe grouping. So instead of having, if there's 1,000 wireframes, you'll have 1,000 wireframes on the side panel that you need to scroll through. Instead, you can group them and collapse them. So here, for example, I've currently got some rings that are related to certain wireframes. And if I come in and import, I can grab my test wireframes. So first of all, I'll grab the DXF. So it imported the DXF, and you can see here, so the name of the DXF was WF_ACAD. And in that DXF, here, let me switch my view. So you can see that I'm able to select each of the wireframes separately, manage them separately, but instead of having all 5 of them always showing, I can just collapse the whole thing, and I can also apply settings to the entire set as well. So, yeah. Alright, and also to show, so I've also got a datamine file to import this way, a datamine wireframe file. And in this case, it will actually recognize sometimes other settings that you have. So here it's actually split it out by color. And let me hide the other one. So I've got separate small wireframes. I can select each of them, but then I can collapse it down to size. Same thing with the red wireframes that we have here. And so this is grouping. So if I tell it to ungroup, then it goes back to the old way that it was. But you're able to select, using Control or Shift, you can select multiple wireframes and you can group them into a new, either you can put them into an existing group that you already have, or you can put them into a new group. So let's call this the red group. Alright, so now those wireframes are part of red. Select some more and add those to the same group. Alright, so that means that you are able to deal with this, deal with large numbers of wireframes in a much easier fashion. Alright, then copying rings. There has always, or for a long time, there's been the ability to copy rings between planes. So that gets you with your ring or your ring planes in the same location. But now it allows us to instead copy the hole pattern. So let's go into a different scenario that we have here. So sometimes you might be unhappy with a pattern. So let's say I've selected this ring. Generally, I like it. I might want to redrill it with some different parameters, maybe a toe spacing 4, different hole size, like that. Maybe even do an even spacing. So if I decide that now I want these holes to go to the corners, so I can use Control and force the holes to the corners. Move points around. Maybe add new holes in the corners. And you'd probably want to do this, especially if you've got a consistent, a consistent cross section, like a sublevel cave or something like that. So, alright, so I've positioned my holes so that they're now targeting the corners. And if I look at my other rings, so my other rings don't follow the same logic. But if I'm happy where those are, I can just renumber those. Then, well, I need to find out, so I'm currently on ring 7, and if that's the ring that I want to copy, I come down to ring 7, and then I say copy holes to. Now with this I could copy the holes to every ring, or I could just set specific rings. So I'm going to copy it to rings 8 through 10. And first of all, I am going to adjust the hole collars to match the target drift. If I don't do that, if my roof changes, the collars won't be in the right location. So this fixes those collars. So it's going to update the 3 strings. So this was my first scenario, or my first ring, and then all the other rings are clones of it. Now these last 2 rings I haven't copied yet. But if I come and do the same thing, so select that. If I want to copy my holes, what I will do is, once again, I'll select these other ones. But if you use preserve target holes, what happens is it will add the new holes to the ring, but it will also keep whatever holes were already there. So I'll just do that to one of those, or to both of those rings. So when I come to those rings, you can see both patterns that were existing, and then I can mix and match, delete the holes that I maybe don't want, or do whatever other manual edits. So that option is there really more if you need it, but probably, yeah, you can use it if you need to. All right, let's look what else. So isosurfacing single rings. So this is something that we've been able to do before, but not in the same way. So when you isosurface a ring, it allows you to see, estimate a burden, and see what interactions certain rings have with other rings. So let's go down to this scenario. Because quite often you might be having it where you've already got an initial blast. So maybe I take these first 3 rings in initial blast, and in this case I have already created the rings for that. But let's say I wanted to take this last ring and dump it into the other rings. So first of all, to create the ring isosurface, you go to the ring level. So I can come and say, all right, I want to create an isosurface for this ring number 1. So I go to ring number 1. I tell it that I want to isosurface the ring. I specify my ISO distance, triangle size, and color. And as soon as I hit OK, so that wireframe will be added to the wireframes up top. So it now exists on the drawing. And so anytime any ring that I'm in that intersects that ring will show the intersection. So if I were to, say, take the second ring, oh, that's already in a scenario. So I've got another ring created for ring 6. Let's isosurface that ring again. Maybe I want to do like a 1.8 meter offset from the holes. Alright, so I've generated this orange one. You can see that the green one was at 2 meters, the orange one is at 1.8. And then if I'm now dumping rings beside that into that initial pattern, as I intersect, I can see where I'm coming in between, and then I can make my edits so that I'm, I guess, not loading into that area that I've delineated around that. So I'm just holding Control and shortening these. And so not drilling through what should already be blasted. So this is useful both for when you're doing dumping rings in, and I've also got another scenario here where if you're trying to go around a corner, so if we've got a scenario going around a corner, so first of all, the rings here wouldn't necessarily interact with each other, but once you start going around the corner, let's hide some of those other, here, I can start on this corner. So if I say I'm happy mostly with this ring as it is, that ring is ring number 13. And I can come in, isosurface my ring on ring number 13. Okay. And then at that point, if I decide that I'm going to start adjusting the rings around there, I can now see that these holes will already be within that 2 meter boundary of that first ring. So I can clip these out. Alright, so now my holes are just showing on one side. And I can do the same thing with this next ring. Slide it along and make the same changes. Pull the holes back. And we can use this to figure out all of our interactions and pull things back. So, all right, but that covers that for today. I guess if there's any questions, that's fine. You can send through questions to support.apac@DataMine Software, or you can go to our website or call the support number 0732480000. All right, thanks for your time today, and that's all.